Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the BTM channel, and in today's video we are doing a different type of video. We are doing a fantasy football video. I want to start doing some more fantasy football, sports, football. You know, obviously we are going into the NFL season. I want to start doing more of that type of content, Madden content, etc., etc. It's gotta be a fun NFL season. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, I want to start doing some more of that. So let me know if you guys enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy that type of content. And without further ado, we are going to get right into this video. And in this video, I am going to be ranking my top 10 fantasy QBs for the NFL season. So without further ado, let's get right into it. At my 10th spot, I have the MVP, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP. Had another great year last year. Finished 6th in fantasy points, and yeah, I know it seems a little surprising that I have him ranked at the 10th spot. It's like the MVP of the league. However, obviously, as you know, just because he's the MVP does not mean he's the best in fantasy. So I have him ranked here. He has lost Devontae Adams. He has a kind of a scuffy, kind of just a weird wide receiver core now. It is not quite what it used to be. And I think he's just going to take a dip without Devontae Adams. Plus, obviously, he has no rushing upside there as well. So I think they might go more to the run as well. So overall, at the 10th position, I have Aaron Rodgers as my 10th QB. At my 9th position, I have Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys, a guy that finished 7th last year in fantasy points. And yeah, I still see him being a very productive, fantasy QB. Has a little bit of that rushing upside, as we saw in that 49ers game on that last play. Lots of rushing upside. Yeah, I mean, overall, a very talented QB. Still has CeeDee Lamb. And I believe they still have Michael Gallup, if I do remember correctly. And yeah, so the wide receiver core has not taken too much of a dip. Obviously, they lost Amari Cooper, which I think will hurt him a little bit, but I still have him in the top 10 as far as fantasy points go. And he is going to be my 9th QB for 2022. In the 8th position, we have the GOAT, Tom Brady. And last year in 2021, he had a very, very good year. Finished 3rd in fantasy points. I had him on a lot of teams. Did very, very well for me. But I do have him taking a little dip to the 8th spot this year. Yeah, I mean, realistically, he hasn't overall changed much. But I overall do think they are going to be going a little bit more towards that running game. Last year, it almost seemed like they were going for that record. I think that it was like the most passing QB or passing touchdowns of all time. It seems like they were passing a ton. And I still think they will pass a lot with Tom Brady. But I do still see him taking a big dip. I mean, he had a lot of touchdowns last year, which is just expected to go down after a big year like that. Next up, I have at the 7th position, I have Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. Finished 10th last year. Had a very, very kind of meh year. You know, it was not normal Kyler Murray that we saw in 2020. He was super, super good in 2020. Loved watching him play. But last year he did take a little bit of a dip, went to the 10th spot, and overall, you know, lost DeAndre Hopkins to some injuries. And just overall, that was the biggest piece. And he just was not the same QB that he was. But I do have him moving up a little bit this year. Although he will still be without DeAndre Hopkins for, I believe it's 6 games out of the year. I still see him being a productive fantasy QB with his rushing upside. And he does have Marquise Brown, though, now. So, nonetheless, I still see him being a productive fantasy starter. And at the 6th position, we got Joe Burrow. Yes, sir, you already know who it is. Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. He finished 8th last year, and I do expect to see him go up to about around the 6th position. I think he could go a little bit higher to the 5th spot. We'll talk about why I think that once we get to the 5th spot. But yeah, I mean, you look at Joe Burrow. Obviously, very talented QB, very good arm. Has a little rushing upside, not much though. I wouldn't depend on that. I mean, but you look at the wide receiver core, it's ridiculous. Best wide receiver core in the NFL. He has added Hayden Hurst, which could be an underrated signing of the free agency. We added Hayden Hurst to the team, which could be a big piece to help out Joe Burrow. New offensive line. I mean, everything is just upgraded. And yeah, I mean, for a guy that finished 8th last year with that bad of offensive line, I only expect him to get better this year. I have him at the 6th position. At the 5th spot, I have Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. And last year he finished 9th, although I think that is without the rushing stats, because I believe when you tack on the rushing upside, he finished like top 3, top 5. He was very, very, very good last year. And yeah, he's still at a good position in drafts where you can draft him right now at a fairly good spot that's like he can easily surpass where he's being ranked at. But yeah, he's added A.J. Brown. He's still got Devontae Smith. I forget who their third one is, but I know their wide receiver core is pretty talented. And yeah, I mean, his rushing upside is ridiculous. That's probably the best part of his game. The only issue with his game is just the accuracy. How much can you depend on it? Overall, though, I still got Jalen Hurts at the 5th spot. At the 4th spot, you basically got a mirrored version of him. Just a little bit of a MVP version of him. Lamar Jackson finished 15th last year, and obviously that's pretty surprising considering how many games Lamar Jackson missed. Lamar was having a pretty solid year till he got hurt. Yeah, I got him going at least top 5 this year. And again, he has lost some of the wide receiver core. He still has Mark Andrews. He still has Rashad Bateman, who I think is a underrated receiver. But obviously, the majority of his points are got to be rushing. And yeah, I got Lamar Jackson at the 7th spot for 2022. And number 3, we got Patrick Mahomes. Obviously took a loss in the offseason and losing Tyreek Hill. But nonetheless, I still don't think that's going to affect them too much. Overall, I think besides losing Tyreek Hill, I still think they got a lot of upgrades. I think they got Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, McCole Hardman, and Sky Moore. A rookie that could be something down the road here during the season. And yeah, he's basically got just a instead of 1 star, he's got kind of 3 underrated players that I think could do him very well. And he's still got Travis Kelce, nonetheless, don't forget about that. So he finished 4th last year, so I have him going up about 1 position, staying around that same kind of point that he's at. But yeah, I would expect to see Patrick Mahomes at the 3rd position this year. Number 2, we got Justin Herbert, who last year also finished in the number 2 position. And I think Justin Herbert has the potential to go number 1 with that arm strength, that rushing upside, that receiving core he's got. I mean, he is set. He's got Austin Eckler as the running back who's a receiving back. I mean, everything is just set up perfectly for Justin Herbert to finish number 2 or number 1. I mean, I could see it going either way. And yeah, I see Justin Herbert having another great year this year. I got Justin Herbert at the 2nd spot. My number 1 QB for the 2022 fantasy season is none other than the Buffalo Bills QB, Josh Allen. I mean, you look at a guy, great rushing upside, scored a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, has the receiving core, has a good offensive line. Again, him and Justin Herbert, I think, have the most potential. I think those two are kind of interchangeable as my number 1, number 2. And yeah, that is my number 1 QB for the fantasy season. And that is going to cap it off for the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm planning to make some more fantasy videos. Also, I might do a fantasy league with some subscribers that I think will be very fun. I might make 2 leagues. I don't know, man. I'm getting excited for football season. Hopefully you guys are. And yeah, expect to see some more fantasy videos in the future. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.